Voting for the Lovin Malta Social Media Awards 2021 is now open. Malta's grey listing had knock-off effect on royalty payments. Malta-based gaming companies see shares tumble after global minimum 15% corporate tax deal. All this and more on Lovin Daily. Good evening and welcome to Lovin Daily. I'm Tim Diacono, joined today by Julian Bonici. And today is a big day because voting for the Lovin Malta Social Media Awards 2021 is now officially open. You can actually vote for your favourite, for who you think deserves to win these prizes. Ju, what can you tell us about this?
Yeah, exactly. Like you said, the big day is finally here. We've heard all your nominations and shout-outs, and now it's your chance to vote for your favourite Maltese content creators, businesses, NGOs, and genuinely so much more. So we had a total of 114 nominees, and we're shining a light on some of the most creative content creators in the country, from food, sport, music, innovations, and really there's such a long list of categories. Make sure you go check them out. Each category has 6 different nominees who genuinely really need your help. So just one vote makes all the difference between winning the category and finishing second place. So if you've got some favorite TikTokers, Instagrammers, foodies, artists, make sure you vote and go give them the support they deserve. Voting isn't open for very long. It closes on Monday, 18 December. So make sure you go ahead and start voting. It's a really simple process. All you need to do is go on www.thelovinawards.com. It literally takes a few seconds and is completely foolproof. And don't worry if you're confused or struggling. Feel free to message us on our social media platforms for any queries you might have. Just to keep in mind, there are 19 categories. However, there's one special one that we haven't opened for voting. That's the Lovin Malta Lifetime Achievement Award. It's going to be there for the grand finale, so be sure to keep your eyes peeled for some future announcements. Now you can check out the full list of categories online, but just for speaking a bit personally for myself, one I'm really looking forward to is Best Overall Content Creator, because at the end of the day, who wouldn't be, the show sort of the best of the best in their field, and there's some real big heavyweights in that category. None other than Sarah Zerafa, Valentina Rossi, John Malia, Sarah Alfalla, Bisseriata, and Bjorn Formosa, so some really competitive people against one another. Make sure you go support for your favorite one. Other ones I'm also looking for is best food porn, because who doesn't like to look at some food? We do live in Malta after all. And also best artist and illustrator. There's some really cool people over there. Be sure to check them out all online. Tim, any favorite categories yourself?
Yeah, there were a couple. There's, I look at best green initiative, which is an interesting one. Best cause. There's some really top names involved up for nomination. Someone like people like Daniel Omana, the influencer who managed to get Malta to change its hotel quarantine rules. ALS Malta, which needs absolutely no introduction. Victory Kitchen, which started as an initiative to feed people who lost their jobs during the pandemic and has since grown into a really strong powerhouse to feed people in poverty. But then there's also more renowned ones like Richmond Foundation, Dr. Clown. So it's going to be quite interesting to see who wins this one. There's also Best Podcast. It's something that's really sprung up in Malta over the years. You could barely find the Maltese podcast, and now there's actually so many that there's a competition for them. There's podcasts like John Malia, Ragnar Chanta, Trudy Care. They go all up against each other. So yes, all of the nominees, all the 114 panelists weren't chosen by Lovin Malta, they were chosen by the public. So these are already the fact that they made it to nomination stage already an achievement in of itself, and they had to pass one hurdle. Now it's the final hurdle, and it's up to you. Just cast your vote. 5 days to go, and we'll soon let you know who the winners are. Moving on, something a little bit more somber. We've heard a lot about Malta's grey listing by the FATF and the impact it's had on banking and on accountancy and the processing of payments. However, the sad reality is that it is infiltrating into several industries. And in fact, Howard Key de Bono, one of the X Factor Malta judges and the leading music Maltese music producer, opened up a little bit on a podcast that's happened to be by Trudy Kerr's podcast about how he recently tried to process some kind of royalty payment from the largest music labels in the world, and there was an issue that they used to do things one way, and now because Malta's greylisted, the process has become more complicated, and it's a small thing, and he admitted, like I said, it's not the end of the world, but the point he made, which is extremely valid, is that you have to, when you're dealing with the outside world, everything counts. When you're in a room and if you're going to, cripple yourself and smear your own reputation with completely avoidable means, you don't know what the impact is going to be. And this is a real lesson that greylisting should teach us. I don't think we've really learned it that much yet. I think it's still very much the bravado. I feel that, it's just another challenge for us to overcome. But even if we do, I mean, the reputation is there. And the world has become so globalized that you can't afford, even though you're an island, you can't afford to be an island and assume that people aren't looking at you. You need to manage your relationships with the outside world, and you need to manage your perception and you need to be completely aware that certain things that even if the electorate won't punish you for them, doesn't mean that the country won't suffer. It means that it can still suffer, and through reasons like this. And unfortunately, it's still very much, like I said, not really. It seems very much like, is there something of finance of the banks to deal with? Not my issue, but it is, because at the end of the day, it's making life in Malta harder for businesses, and making Malta less attractive to new business. And we're up against steep competition. It's not falling to the best in the world, number one trap. It's not the case. We're great, but there's lots of other great competitors as well. And we're going to the longer this stays, the worse it's going to be for us.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly it. As much as we're great, we're also grey-listed at the end of the day. And as you said, unfortunately, when grey-listing first was announced, we were sort of fed this almost lie, that it's only banks and all of that who are going to be affected. Don't worry, just little bit more paperwork. But now we're seeing, it's actually really affecting daily lives of Maltese people. I mean, we recently ran a story just for example, how it just a sort of micro instance how it affects you. There's this Maltese guy who lives in Poland, lives and works in Poland, obviously has a Polish bank account, but now he's received a letter that, listen, hey, don't use your Polish credit card, bank card, whatever, while visiting Malta, because it's a high-risk jurisdiction, So even like that, how people can spend their money is actually starting to feel their effects. I know everyone's going a bit crazy over the budget and stuff like that, but something like grey-listing can really damage Malta in the long term, even reputationally speaking, like Tim was saying. On to our next story, kind of linked, it's all about how online gaming companies based in Malta have seen their share price significantly drop following the news that a deal was struck by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development to establish a 15% minimum corporate tax rate across the globe. According to figures outlined by EGR, Evolution shares and Cambi shares dropped by 6% following the announcement. Meanwhile, Kindred Group's shares actually took an initial tumble, but has actually gathered pace and improved its share price over the last few days. Now, obviously, this all comes after quite a big announcement on 8 October. With that, the Maltese government was one of 136 countries that form part of this landmark agreement, which is planned actually to come into effect in 2023. It will apply to companies with an annual revenue of over $750 million and is actually predicted to generate some, $150 billion worldwide in tax revenues. Now, despite forming part of the agreement, Malta's Finance Minister Clyde Caruana has actually said he holds reservations over the deal and said, the country will be filing counter proposals. Now, his point is, he understands why there should be maybe a 15% minimum tax rate. However, there are considerations to take in for small island states like Malta, who need to be competitive on the international scale. For those of you who don't know, Malta actually has one of the highest corporate tax rates in the world at 35%, but a tax rebate system provided only to companies owned by non-residents actually sees some operators in Malta pay around 5% in tax. It should be made absolutely clear Malta is not the only country with this kind of tax schemes, and not even the only country in the European Union who faces criticism over these tax rates. Ireland as well is one of them. As I said before, what really needs to be made clear, these schemes do actually attract, businesses to the country. We've seen it in Malta with financial services and iGaming. However, they do cause controversies from some of the wealthiest democracies in the world who say, some companies are simply avoiding paying tax and setting up more or less letterbox companies in countries rather than, setting up proper businesses. Now, the agreement will eventually be discussed at EU level and could be implemented as a directive for the bloc. So we could actually see this coming into play within a few years. Maybe it might be altered slightly to benefit countries like Malta. On the 15% tax rate issue itself and the 5% tax rate in Malta, I am a bit conflicted on it. Obviously, on one hand, you do have this reality, that obviously does provide jobs and whatever, but it's actually harmful to many Maltese businesses, who simply can't compete, with foreign operators in the country when it comes to wages and stuff like that, particularly when you're paying a 5% tax rate. That's almost a 30% difference, right, for Maltese companies, and obviously they're really struggling to it as well. I do think there are some moral questions to be asked about the tax rebate system and seeing massive corporations, obviously not pay their fair share of tax despite, contributing to a number of the issues. And I do think it's time maybe to Malta to start exploring something different than, a race to the bottom of tax. I know it seems like it's the only option, but for me, I think we might be a little bit better than that.
What's the ceiling? 750 million? 750 million revenue. Look, this is something that some countries have been planning for a long time, that this whole idea of a global or European minimum tax rate. However, it never really picked up ground. It did because of the pandemic. All of a sudden, nations realized that, we've spent borrowed a lot of money, we need to gain revenue fast. And obviously the easiest way to gain revenue is by taxing your residents and your businesses even more. And this is appealing to several nations. Malta doesn't seem to appeal to it, but it's not going to challenge the system by itself, and rightly so. Especially especially with grey listing, I don't think that will help much. However, it does again go to show how purely how not only we become globalized, but becoming even more. So there's the moment an effective 15% corporate tax rate is issued, all of a sudden the power of governments is decreased phenomenally across the board. You can't, if you can't even control, or you have limits on how much tax you can impose to your own citizens. Now, what does that mean? I don't want it to sound like we're becoming like one world, but we're like one government. But we're approaching that. If the government, I can't say I want to tax them for 10%, because I think it will help the economy that way. And then you have someone like the United Nations telling you no, or the European Union telling you no. It's like, I get the concerns that are leading to it, which are mainly a loss of revenue because of the restrictions imposed by the pandemic. But I do feel that it's a very rash decision, a very rash plan, and people aren't really thinking it through. They're just seeing let's grab the money from these potential tax avoiders, and without seeing the implication that it will have on smaller countries. Well, Malta should fight to the bone to make sure that no deal will result in making the country less, to a situation where people end up losing their jobs because the country is less business friendly. So that's quite clearly where I stand over there. Moving on, Hugo Ketkuti, the murder trial of Bojan Mellick, the man charged with the murder of Hugo Ketkuti, is about to draw to its conclusion. The jury is currently deliberating the evidence that they've heard by both defense and prosecution. And over the week, you probably saw a couple of reports about what happened that fateful night, and then shocked the nation. Bojan Mellick went up to Hugo Ketkuti. Hugo thought he was going to hug him, and they did hug him, but then he also stabbed him. A police chase ensued. It took a lot of officers to actually get this gun down. They were trying to fire pepper spray at him, and still a big strong guy, and they still couldn't bring him down. I was hoping, as I'm sure many people were, that would have heard some kind of explanation for the motive during the trial by jury. However, the suspect has yet to speak to police at all. Like during these years it's happened, the only time he spoke to police was to tell them that he lives on the streets, and that was a lie because he lives with his brother. So the suspicion is still there that whether this was something personal, that this man has something personal against Hugo Katkuti, he did used to work in some of his outlets, however, or whether this was a hit, whether he was acting on behalf of someone else. Let's not forget that this guy has a history in Serbia. He was jailed for armed robbery. Armed robbery. He was actually on the run for months. There's a manhunt on him with this guy's face out in the Serbian press. He served his sentence. He changed his name. He changed his surname. Came to Malta. So he will have connections with the underworld for sure. Whether that's the cause of Hugo's murder or not, we don't know. But the connections are there, and the suspicion is there. It's in the fact it's not speaking to police, and that would mean that obviously the mastermind is still out there. We still don't know who it is, and I unfortunately this case does seem to have been swept a little bit under the carpet a bit. There's not much real, pressure I feel on the police to tell people whether they suspect it's a mastermind, whether they don't, whether it's a closed case. We've seen cases, very serious cases of murder in Malta, which we expect, right? The police to at least let us know. We haven't had a single crime conference on this. Forgive me if I'm wrong.
No, I think you're right. I don't think we actually have at all. And I mean, like you said, since there's no motive has been established, this is coming from the prosecution. They still haven't established a motive. Almost 2 years, or if not more, after his murder. We had a murder. Like Daphne Caruana Galizia, where it showed, how murders like this can be planned, against massive figures in the country. Hugo was a huge figure, just as Daphne was, and how people can come together and actually, commit a murder against someone. As you said, Tim, there's barely been any press conferences on it. Mm-hmm. It's been swept under the rug, and we just stopped there, where really, I think the whole nation is hungry, in the sense for true justice to be served in this case, and not for just us to just stop over here. The jury is actually deliberating at the moment, so we'll probably have a verdict, if not tomorrow, in the next few days. So stay tuned for Lovin Malta for more updates on that. Our last story, a little bit more of a positive one. I'm sure you all remember those lovely images of Santanfloriana being pedestrianised and with lots of greenery over there. Well, those that actually could soon become a reality after Malta's budget for 2020 said a feasibility study into the proposal will be launched. So not much detail was given on what the project could look like, naturally, because a feasibility study is going to be done. However, it's actually the first real indication that it could soon become a reality. Now, obviously, this has been in the circulation for the media for quite a long time. I think it was actually first proposed in 2014. Basically, a group of architects from DHI Periti in Camilleri Cassa, Anna Gallo, Bernard Vella, and Adam Brigade basically produced proposed the complete pedestrianisation of the area, giving a green facelift to Floriana, seeing traffic to Valletta going underground. Check out lovinmalta.com for some new renders. Actually, there's some really, really cool images over there. Now, beyond obviously beautifying and helping traffic and whatever, it's actually predicted, that this uplift could have several potential benefits too for the area, including social, economic, and health gains. And at the end of the day, who wouldn't want more public spaces? And actually, quite a beautiful area like Sant'Anna. Going up to Valletta, it would be really, really beautiful. At a point, it seemed like the project itself was put on the back burner, regardless of a mayor showing approval for the project. However, the feasibility does actually give me some hope, that it will happen. Now, let's not hope that it's going to be another feasibility study that we're going to see in the next 6 years. We need to see it done now. I think public space and open spaces is something we all want, as particularly with all the rampant construction around the country. So I'd be actually really happy to see this become a reality. Then again, I just want to reiterate, there's so much more to be done for the environment than just another open space.
How will this fit with the metro? Seriously, we're going to be building a tunnel under Floriana for cars. We're going to build a metro next to it, or?
Yeah, that's actually a very, very fair question. Who knows what's going to happen with it, right?
I have strong suspicions over whether this Saint Anna pedestrianization is ever going to happen. I mean, I hope it does, but it just honestly seems like one of these, dreams that you love the images, but then when it comes down to the nitty gritty, it seems that it will harm people's daily lives in terms of going to Valletta a bit too much. Again, I hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am. And that's it from us today. A reminder that the voting for the Lovin Malta Social Media Awards has opened today. So you can log into, what was the website?
www.thelovinmalta.com, thelovinmaltaawards.com. Sorry about that. Be sure to check it out. There are so many cool categories. That's it from us for now, and have an evening full of love.